our tagline, right, is solutions, not excuses. And that I think is if you want to grab a hold of something, everybody can make an excuse, but it's really about the solution
Go like
side.
this. The corporate salute.
Side and business, life, everything else, keep that in mind,
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Matt Rosenthal, and welcome to Digging In. This is a show that reveals and digs into what it truly takes to be a success in business and life and health, and how you can use the information that you're going to get today to reach your potential. You're going to hear some powerful stories. We have a great guest on today. The guy's got some tremendous experience, and we both hope that what comes out of today's show, it inspires you, it educates you. And to jump right into it, today's topic is self-made, because this gentleman is self-made, how grit and commitment help you reach your potential. Let me give you a quick background on Chris. This is Chris Kelly. Before we get into the first question, let me just say, the guy's a man of many talents. He is a self-made, hopefully you're okay with me saying this, he's a self-made multimillionaire, firefighter. He'll talk about that. He spent many years as a firefighter. He's a businessman. That's how he made most of his wealth in real estate as well. He's a mentor. He's an expert salesman. And one of the things that I look forward to diving into today is hearing him talk about this. He's disciplined. He's strategic. He's a creative thinker. And I've watched this guy take situations that you would be like, how do I get out of this situation? And all of a sudden he's got a solution and everybody's happy. So with that, this is Chris Kelly. Thanks for coming on, Chris.
Hey, thanks, Matt. Nice to be with you.
Did I miss anything just now about you?
No.
You agree?
There's also, a little bit of luck involved in everything, right?
Well, I can't believe you just said that. All right, we're going to start with that. I was on, and I learned this from you, by the way, one of these things over the years. I was on a call this morning, and the topic of the call, they wanted the theme to be, it was a networking group, luck. So everybody's talking about what their view of luck is. So I get on and I go, okay, I don't believe in luck. What I believe in is awareness, opportunity, and potential, right? And you're a guy who's put yourself in so many situations where you're aware, your antennas are up, and where other people might miss an opportunity, you've jumped on so many opportunities. And there's so many people probably now in life that could look at you and say, wow, you've been so lucky. This has all worked out so well for you. Your business has been great and it's amazing. But I mean, come on, you prepared. I mean, you put the time in.
Well, understanding that the fire protection business, okay, came to me because I had a co-op job in college. And this is when they used to have a bulletin board with index cards on it. And there was
what's a bulletin board?
Exactly.
Is it like a payphone?
Yeah, payphone. Huh? But there was a job posting for the assistant fire protection supervisor. I interviewed for it and I got the job, and I worked for a guy, Harold York. And he said, for some reason, he called me Clyde. I don't exactly know why. But he said, Clyde, the best thing about this job is we have these NFPA standards. And if you understand those, you understand the job, and nobody can tell you anything about anything. And that's how I got into the fire protection business.
You know what? I neglected to actually point out that your business is the fire protection business. And that's great that you jumped into that. And that story it's a great point to get to, but I want to ask you to do me a favor. Mm-hmm. I know you have a really interesting background, childhood. You grew up in a cool environment where, I know you've told me about your dad and things that were instilled in you. I want to, at some point in this conversation, bring it forward to how all that helped you. Mm-hmm. Can you just speak a little bit about the things that you still carry with you in life that came from what you learned as a kid?
Oh, absolutely. My dad was a regular Army, Sergeant Major, 10th Mountain Division. My first BB gun was a 22 bolt action Ruger rifle. So I skipped the BB gun and went right to the fire rifle. I have learned some skills from him, aside from the marksmanship, but I can orienteer in the dark using a lensatic compass and a flashlight, shooting forward and back azimuths. But that skill set.
Interesting childhood, interesting thing to learn as a kid.
Yeah, I mean, and I've used it several times. But the other thing, his comment is that you should have all of the original holes and marks on you that you came out with. So no piercings, no tattoos. And he was okay with the mustache, but that was about it.
That was it.
You can see that I definitely have long hair, and so all of those standards I have kept.
I recall you telling me in his professional, I guess in his career, growing up in a home where there was like routine, right? There was like discipline. And I don't mean discipline like you getting smacked. I mean, there was like a way of doing things, right?
Yeah. I mean, so so he went to Newark College of Engineering, now NJIT, mechanical engineer, and then proceeded through originally, and if he were around now with Amazon and the amount of corrugated boxes that are produced. So he was a packaging engineering guy for Pepsi back in the day, and moved up to a VP at PepsiCo up in Purchase, New York. He used to drive from Garfield, New Jersey to Westchester every day.
Every day.
Snow, rain, gas shortages.
So there was a sense of duty, right? Which I guess you mentioned he was in the military, which I didn't know. We never talked about that.
Yeah.
So there's a sense of duty. There's a sense of like, this is what you do. This is how you do it, and although I don't think he was ever in business for himself, you found an entrepreneurial spirit sometime early on, right?
Well, but so he did have a commercial printing business after he left. Well, he went from PepsiCo to me, but that's how I decided that I would never be a corporate guy, because I think he turned 60 and they said, okay, thanks for the effort.
That's it. Goodbye.
Goodbye. So, he started a commercial printing business, and then subsequently, one of his biggest client changed, and he was left with no business, and that's so.
Wow. How old were you when that happened?
I don't know, 26, 27. I was giving him a hand. I can't remember the first time that I showed him Lotus 1, 2, 3. And I did a couple of things, and he laughed. He said, I had 6 people in a conference room with calculators and ledger pads, and for a week to do what you just did in about 3 seconds.
It's funny because again, I didn't know that he had that business. Maybe I did, but I think we might have talked about it actually. And connecting all that, it's kind of interesting knowing you and seeing what you've done and what you've built. You learned, I mean, it's a valuable lesson that you saw that you have control overall is an illusion, right? But you do have the ability to influence. You can influence the outcome of things. And so you saw where maybe you didn't want to have that corporate path. You wanted to have the ability to draw your own map, right? Create your own path. I think so. Initially, you did get into working for somebody else. I mean, that was kind of how you started. You didn't have anything at the time. I mean, you started with basically nothing. You're a super smart guy. You also went to a great university. You're an engineer, but you didn't take the corporate path.
Nope. Well, I mean, and I also had an opportunity to go to West Point, right? And I declined that because at a certain point in the military, somebody who's probably not as smart as you is going to write your efficiency report as an officer,
and they're gonna judge whether your behavior, which might be seen as creative by some, is disruptive to others. It's a matter of perspective, right? it's interesting because you even look at some kids there's a lot of kids these days that are labeled as, ADD, when the reality is it's just the way that they see things, and it's their energy. And I mean, we're not doctors here, but we do know that there's an element to me and you and all these entrepreneurs that we know that are successful where there is an element of like you're able to do a lot at once and see a lot of things, and there's an energy level that many people find annoying, but it's also necessary to be a successful entrepreneur. I mean, it's a way of thinking.
Yeah. I laugh because, when we renovated our home, the design of the master suite was designed so that I could get up, go into the master closet, close the door, shower, change, get dressed, and leave without waking up Cheryl. And I would be up at 5 a.m. Well, think about that. When I started Specialized, my office was a 10 by 10 bedroom in my house. You were part of that.
I actually remember that because I used to sit there doing AutoCAD drawings, not in your bedroom, but in the downstairs one with no air conditioning in the house, by the way. Thank you. And you'd be like, all right, I'll see you later. I'm going to head out. And I'd be sitting there doing AutoCAD drawings, like dripping all day.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, by the way, there's like, if you want something and it's in the fridge, I go open the fridge is empty.
But
you know something?
Plenty of nights I went to sleep to the sound of the plotter running.
That's right. That's right. But these are I don't want to go that far yet because there's a lot in between there. We got to unpack. You joined the fire service when you were how old?
Probably 20 in Garfield, truck 4.
Okay. So you smart guy, went to a great university, find yourself back at about that age or back in Garfield.
Yep.
And have a sense of service, a sense of duty. Now we see where it comes from. It was part of the culture in your home. It was the way that it was, right? And so you decide to serve the public as a firefighter.
Yep.
You're finding at that point, you're still finding you weren't in business yet, correct?
Yep. I was actually working for AGL Welding Supply. I was their portable fire extinguisher guy.
You got into the fire business sort of in college, like you were introduced to it in college when you were tapped to do that. Then you get out of college, you're doing this now, you're working for AGL. And
but AGL wasn't a systems provider. This was actually lugging fire extinguishers around.
Yeah, so you're a grunt, but that's awesome, right? Because that's what in the end, when you fast forward to one of the key things that I know you've used to be successful in business, you've got grit. And every successful entrepreneur that I've ever met, and I want to hear your thought on this, they all have grit, because how else would you get through all the pain and all the, getting punched in the face every day and getting knocked down and getting up every day over and over and over, which that's an entrepreneur. You were 21, you're lugging fire extinguishers up the stairs, to make a living. You joined the fire service because you wanted to give back. You're not avoiding hard work. Like, you're leaning into it.
Yeah, and you have to. Nothing good is easy, right?
I had to pause because that was really good, and it's really true. What if you think about it? And so the generation now, I hate to point out generations, but how do you ignore it? There's a generation of you own a company, I own a company. We hire people that are from a certain generation. We can see that there is wonderful people who somehow along the way, I guess because of society or whatever, they're lacking something that you and I came up with, which was, if you don't work for something, it ain't gonna happen, and there's no shortcuts. Like, you can't shortcut it. You got to put in the hard work.
Absolutely. But again, and you referenced it earlier, it's the thought process. We have one of our employees, and we're moving some portable fire extinguishers from one spot to another, and he picks up one and he walks over and he puts it in the other spot, and he walks over and he picks up one and he puts it in the other spot, and normally, you just, and I said, hey, watch this, and I turned 4 fire extinguishers around so the handles were facing each other, and I picked up 4 at the same time and brought them over, and I'm like, why don't you try that?
What do you think? Work smart, not hard, right?
Work smart, not hard.
I mean, it's so that brings up a good point, though. You see things differently than the average bear. right?
My wife insists that I have OCD. I said, my parents paid big money for an engineering degree.
Well, maybe arguably what you don't have is OCD. What you have is maybe a really important attention to detail that you need to be successful in business, right?
Oh, absolutely. And you
Tell
know
me
what's
about
funny
that.
is that I think that you and I both see things that somebody else wouldn't see.
Oh, how
Right.
could that be? How could we be all how could you and I be looking at something and 20 other people are sitting in the same room and they don't see the opportunity or they don't see the problem or they don't see the solution?
Listen, I was walking through our operations area and I stopped and I looked and I'm like, who has a Bosch cordless tool? And one of the guys looks up and he goes, I'm using yours out of your bench, but I promised to put it back. And then he goes, how could you possibly walk in through here and see that there's a Bosch battery on the desk? I'm like, I don't know how I saw that, but make sure it goes back.
You know, I can relate to that. If you walk into my office and you move something on my desk, if you move a pen from here to here, it's not healthy, but I know the pen was moved.
Right.
And I know the reason for me. And it actually was, I was able to tie it back. I did a bunch of work over the past couple of years trying to figure myself out. And I was able to tie it back to as a young boy, like really young, there was a lot of chaos around me. There was also a lot of controlling type of things around me. And for me, I adapted as a kid to be able to have my own sense of control and not feel like there was chaos around me. You do that by being disciplined and organized. You know, I used to keep my Star Wars figures like perfectly placed in, you know, and if anybody moved anything, I would know. And I always wondered why. And so I read a book once that called somebody like that perfectly dysfunctional. Because, and by the way, everybody I know who's successful as an entrepreneur has some sense of perfectly dysfunctional behavior because something makes us be able to see things other people don't see. It is an attention to detail. It is, for me, partially also, maybe you can relate, a sense of you really want to make people happy. Like you really want to deliver. Like you don't want to fail. You know?
And you're familiar with, part of our standard thought process and what we bring to work every day with us is proceeding and designing the process, okay, around limiting our opportunity to fail, right? So when we're working on a project and we're coming up with a work plan and we're going to figure out how we're going to do this, right? We're going to structure it in a fashion, okay, where we don't set ourselves up for failure, and
Right.
we manage the risk associated with, that. And you're familiar with our process where very uniquely in the fire protection systems world, we build all of our systems, okay, in a lab, in our office, and we make them work here, okay, and we test them here before we ship them to the field, and again, limiting the opportunity to fail, where all of the remote enclosures or transponders are next to each other, 6 inches away. In the field, they might be 10 floors above or below, or 400 feet away. So you can understand the efficiency in being able to take one step, okay, and see what's happening in this enclosure and what's happening in this enclosure, and testing that platform where we have an unlimited supply of parts and pieces. We have connectivity with technical support and the collegial team that we have here. When something isn't right, you can reach out and grab somebody else and say, hey, what, take a look at this, or what do you think about this? So versus, trying to deploy, do that in the field, just setting yourself up for failure.
How much time? I mean, I'm thinking, and I've been in rooms with you for days in a row. Many years ago, we used to work together. Thinking about processes and workflows and like reverse engineering existing problems, or just saying, look, what got us here isn't going to get us there. We need to do it differently now. And taking the time to stop, and that to me goes back to its commitment, its attention to detail. It's like the forethought, and it is like seeing the things that other people don't see, and assessing the risk. Like, what's the risk? It's the opportunity cost. What's the risk of not doing what we're about to do, which is let's sit in a room for 3 days and figure out how a new piece of software is going to change the company for X amount of years to come. But how is that even going to happen? It's because we're going to be able to deliver a better service to our customers. They're going to have more certainty, more trust, and more confidence in us, which builds that long-term relationship. None of that you've done by accident. That's all been things that you've thought about ahead of time.
Yeah, well, I mean, I always, from AutoCAD, start with Excel, right? Lotus 1, 2, 3. That's how you know how old we are, right? But
I resemble that remark.
I've always made an investment. I always figured that, to understand the tools. So, I mean, I don't know how many people understand that the concatenate function in the Excel, but you have to spend some time with it. And I do things with Excel that, our team, and when I share it with our team, they're like, wow, I can't believe that you just did that, something as simple as a mail merge, okay, to print wire markers for a project, and I think we have like 4,000 different connections, and I worked with Barney to kind of format it and get it right, and then we outputted it, and he was like, man, that is just so amazing and so efficient. And same thing. I mean, we've improved the capabilities, but when I started with AutoCAD, whenever I started with release 9.
Yeah.
So that was before they actually went to years. But I did, understood it. I had a buddy of mine show me what it was, and then I got into it, and then I came up with the automated block, right? And you were familiar with this because you were placing those automated blocks.
Yeah.
But it had data attributes, okay? And then what we did is we took the data attributes out into Excel, we auto completed, and then we pushed the data back in to address all of the devices. Another person who doesn't understand DDE and how that works would actually click on the icon or the device and then type the address in, and then go to the next one and type the address in. So
the amount of time that takes.
It's
huge. You touched on so many good things. By the way, we have to remember, people are going to watch this who don't have any idea who or what a Barney is.
Mike Fisher, one of our senior PMs.
He's another fireman that and I met Chris initially in the fire department, and there's another guy, Mike, who looks like Barney Rubble from the Flintstones. And so at the firehouse, they called him, maybe it was even before the firehouse, but he's Barney, and he works for you. He works for Chris, and it's funny because his mindset is in alignment with your mindset, which is one of the reasons that so many of the people that work in your company that have been there for so long have been there for so long, because you have a certain belief system, right? And it's not for everybody. It's actually not, and that's okay, because you're everything you just said. If you unpack how much time you spent on that one thing alone, learning and educating, so that you could have your company, first of all, have yourself reach your potential, but also have your company reach its potential. I've watched you over the years. I'm making this up. Let's say you're going to get a new lock for the front door that has some electronics in it. You'll reverse engineer that whole entire thing, not because you care about how every little piece works, because how can we best use it? I need to know so that we can leverage this, maybe save time, be more efficient. That's an important point that a lot of people watching this need to understand. Whether you're starting out in business or you've been in business for 30 years, if you want to reach your potential, like, you've got to continue educating yourself. You can't get stale. You can't get on a treadmill
every day.
And you're the owner. It starts with you. Like, that's where the energy comes from. And like I said, that's right. That's not for everybody. A lot of people have come and gone in your company. Same with me, because the alignment in the belief system isn't the same. Right.
I mean, and you get it. So my thought process is everybody sells a smoke detector, right? There are, I mean, 10 Siemens distributors, in our area, right? But what we really, by culture, corporate culture, is we take that smoke detector from the manufacturer and get it installed on the ceiling, okay, in a facility. Smooth, seamless, efficient, and again, limiting the opportunity to fail. And that's why we're successful. That's why our partners, our clients, okay, will actually pay a premium for us because they know that it's going to be less expensive for them on the labor side moving forward.
And that's part of, well, I believe that's part of your sales process, right? And even sales for you, it's not even, the word is like the wrong word. When you're connecting with and you're getting to know somebody new who's gonna hopefully trust you and work with you, that comes through just naturally in the conversation because that's who you are. Put that gun away. That's who you are, right? And I have to keep going back to it. It's who you've always been, right? It's such an attention to detail and quality and process and workflow that how else? I mean, you and I both know, we look at other businesses that are in the same industry and you're like, how are they even in business? Look at how they left these people, or they didn't follow up, or they did the job, halfway. I mean, you could think of all these, or even the way the contract looks. Like, really, this is how you write an executive summary to somebody, and with you, all of those things are meticulous, and I've seen you put in days looking at a proposal over and over and over to make sure every period, every comma, every formatting, like that's part of the brand of Chris Kelly, which is the brand of your company. And that's what people are getting. So when you say how you build everything in the lab and you bring it out to this field so that it's smoother, I mean, nothing else even comes into your mind. How else would you do it? Right.
But I mean, and people, even though I've shared some of these processes, people still haven't kind of bought into it, I mean, so that
people in the business or people that are customers?
Just customers and my peers, my other Siemens value-added partners. I'm like,
they do it different.
We do it this way. So at our sales meeting, at our summit, they have an owners session, and they get different guys to talk about different things. And I've presented, I don't know, a bunch of different times, and these people are like, what? Like for
you do it that way?
Like, and they're like,
does that work? They can't see it.
Really? Like for labeling, all of our devices are addressable. So it has an address, it's 3 octets, right? In our AutoCAD drawing, right, we place all of those addresses in the drawing. And then what we do is we take them out of the drawing, we mail merge, and we print them, okay, on laser labels, polyester labels, 25 to a sheet, right?
Right.
And we print them 3 times. One goes on the back of the device, one goes on the front of the device, one goes on the outside box. I explain this to everybody. So not only are we only printing the addresses that we need, right? There's folks that are doing it with a P-touch, and there's a guy that goes 1.220.11, okay, print, pick the thing apart, put the label on the device. And you're like, think about that time.
You can't get that time back.
You can't get that time back.
That's a waste.
But again, think about how much that cost is.
It's okay. Now we got, this is where it really, this is it. Like, this is the crux of it. That time can be used for anything. It could be used to market. It could be used to grow the business. It could be used to improve customer service. Why is it? No, not why is it? If we recognize that most people, it's true, even people who are in business, who have lifestyle businesses, who just get to a certain point and they're good, they don't want to keep growing, they don't see that, but you see it.
Well, I think that from my standpoint, obviously, we've scaled, specialized to I don't know what we are, 12 million. But as a business owner, but as a business owner, and my relationship with my team here, you know, as everybody gets older and they buy houses and they build families, okay, that's the only reason why we're 12 million. You know, I mean, my salary really hasn't changed. You know, I'm pretty comfortable and I have just about everything that I need. But it's about you know, taking care of your people that take care of you, and supporting and paying it forward for your team. You know.
Do you feel a sense that they're like your family and you almost feel obligated to make sure that they're okay?
Hands down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, I don't have any children, but I got 39.
Yeah. That's a good feeling, right? Because somebody said to me once, well, it must feel good to sign all those paychecks. I said, first of all, nobody signs paychecks. That's a long time ago. I said, but like, more importantly, what feels good is knowing that we all as a unit are able to keep the company going, keep the company growing, right? And just as much as I'm able to have my health insurance and have a home and have a life, as are all the people that work in my company, it's like everybody's got to do their part. It's a family, and I take great pride, which, like you just said, I take great pride in, like, wow, built the company from nothing. Here we are. We're still going, but I don't need any more than I have. I mean, certainly keep it coming, but it's about giving back now. It's like, how much can you give back and how much can you help other people, and what's your real calling, and what's your service really as the human being? And you just hit the nail on the head with our work family, I call it.
Yeah.
It's about them. I
Well,
mean, you can't make everybody happy all the time, but there's a balance.
There is, but at the end of the day, you know, I mean, you know, our EVP here, Steve Dorenzo, has been with me 23 years.
Right out of college.
Right out of college. John Santala, 24, 23.
Amazing.
You know, long term. I mean, we have a great team, and again, it's the corporate culture. I think that you know, you respect everyone. You know, we try to keep everyone happy to the extent that we can. You know, I think you were part of the solution when our medical increased like 20% or something like that, and you know, our agent was like, all right, well, we'll move to this, and I said, no, we're not going to move to that, because I didn't want it was 2008 or 2009. I didn't want to disrupt, you know, everyone's you know, lifestyle and have to go out and find another pediatrician or find another doctor that wasn't in program. You know,
it's important. Like, those are things that you got to think about, right? And it's not. I mean, you can't do wrong by people, and that's one of the things that I've. We should talk about that too. You know, it's there are times, and I've known you for a long time, and there are times and we didn't point out early on. I think I might have been one of your first employees, like when you first went on your own. But oh, actually, let's come back to this. I want to talk about when you went on your own. We'll come back to my story later. I want to talk about when you went on your own, because I know that there's a lot of value in you left that you were at AGL, but at a certain point you ended up working for a decent size fire alarm company. What would you call Northern?
While I was at AGL, Maxwell House Coffee was one of my clients, and I sold them 40 Scott air packs. Back in the day, they were probably $1,500. Now I think we're up to like 4,000 for a.
By the way, anybody who's watching this, that's like, you see a firefighter, they put the pack on their back, they put the mask on their face. That's what Chris is talking about.
Northern Fire and Safety was the Scott Air Pack distributor. So I drive up there with a rack body and to pick up the air packs that I sold, which apparently I was a kid and I didn't really appreciate that it was like a $60,000 order, unheard of, you know, in the.
That's a long time ago. That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. And they said, oh, they're not going to fit. I said, no, stack them this way and they'll all fit. And they all did.
Yeah.
And 2 days later, I get a call from the owner of Northern Fire and Safety offering me a position.
You were there for a long time after that. That was a fork in the road. You made a decision. You went there.
22 when I started there. I was with them for 11 years. So
And
I
remember at the time, I knew you. I remember when you were contemplating leaving. I remember you telling me stories, or expressing to me just things that were on your mind about making that decision. You made it, and don't sit here and tell me you didn't have any fear. Right? There had to be something. So you pushed through it, right? Because there's uncertainty, right? So
the uncertainty was, well, I had a very good relationship with the owner, right? Principally, the reason why I left is because he was going to semi-retire, and another gentleman was going to, lead the company. And at that point, I had a very unique compensation program.
Yeah.
But the new manager wanted to interfere with that program.
You were doing well.
Yeah.
And you earned every bit of it. You created that.
Oh, yeah. Well, at the time, one of my biggest clients was Letterly Laboratories in Pearl River, New York. And when I started with Northern Fire, we did 2 systems there. And when I left Northern Fire, I actually, with the owner's blessing, I took my 3 biggest accounts because he knew that they were going with me anyway. So
yeah.
the idea,
that's where the trust and the confidence. I mean, the relationship you had with them was so it was so deep, and they just knew that you get the job done no matter what. And even though you were going on your own, they could take that chance on you and rely on you because they knew you wouldn't let them down.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So when I left Northern Fire, we had 168 systems at that one campus. So I grew that relationship, and at one point, it was 90% of our business. And I recognized from the previous experience with my dad's printing company that that's no good, and that's why we diversified, and even from the other client was a defense contractor out on Long Island. You were part of that.
I remember. Yeah.
And obviously, defense contracting changed. It used to be, all over Long Island. But my point is that, understanding business, right? Look at your risk management. Okay. We got into transportation, we work at all of the New York airports now. We got into the large data center, mission critical world. Okay. We are now into the medical healthcare world. So we've focused on diversification into as many silos as we can.
I had something that popped into my head when you mentioned Letterly, and I just got the memory. I mean, this is about 20 something years ago. It's a long time ago when you first went and did it. I remember, I think we had like a 24-foot ladder or something. Remember how high those ceilings were when we had to do those inspections? I I was high up, and I was never good at doing what you do in your business, and you were generous enough to give me an opportunity to work with you when you first started out. But I remember being on top of a ladder, and I was up, and you were like a little dot down on the ground, and you're like, "Would you hurry up? It's time for lunch. Would you get this done already?" I mean, you'd be funny, busting my chops, and I'm like, I'm on a ladder, like barely hanging on. And you're like, "Please, we're hungry. Come on, let's go."
I think and I use the reference when you used to refer to my New York City walk, when you were trying to keep up with the ladder and the tool bag.
The ladder, the tools, the helmet. Like, would you slow down? Jeez, I can't keep up with you. Walking through, that wasn't Letterly. That was the pharmaceutical company in New York.
Yeah, that was the 100 group at Letterly. Well, Wyeth, it was
Pfizer. Wyeth before it was Pfizer. Yeah,
started as Letterly, became Wyeth Airst,
yeah,
and then Pfizer ultimately.
And I mean, walking around that complex, it's like walking city blocks inside one building. If you've never been inside a pharmaceutical company like that, it's mind blowing. It's really amazing.
Funny, I guess I guess it's a Netflix oh gosh, the Raymond Reddington is the character.
Yeah.
Um, I'm watching it and I stopped for a second and I like rewound it. They actually film at that facility.
But did they really?
And I'm like, oh, that's the
Recognize it.
100 group, building 112,
Yeah.
floor 2.
Yeah. Oh, I put that detector in. That pull station right there.
And
I
there's
think it's
and
still
there's
broken.
a strobe right there. But it was so funny how, like, you know, how familiar it was.
Yep. We spent a lot of time there. But you know, and that's an interesting point in time. So we've kind of taken it through a little bit of just how it was when you were a kid, a little bit of getting through college to how you got into business. There was a fork in the road. You took it. I mean, it's by no luck that you are where you are and what you have. You could have continued working for Northern. You made a decision to go a different direction, which wasn't Northern. You went a different direction, and you took a risk. As much as managing risk is a core part of your business, in fact, everybody's business, you weighed the risk. You thought about what's the worst that can go wrong. Okay, fine. I'll just go back and get a job somewhere else. Like I'm capable of generating revenue. I'm good at this. You took the risk, and then when you went and did it, everything that you have, all these the grit, the determination, all these things, right? Every bit of it came into play because it wouldn't have been possible to build your company if in the beginning there was some sort of clock on the wall and you were worried about what time it was, what day of the week it was. You went all in. I mean, hardcore.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you were part of that.
I remember, yeah.
Initial, but you know, I would, I was the chief cook and bottle washer, and I think one of the values, I think, and why, and I guess what we're really talking about is leadership, right? Never ask someone to do something that you wouldn't or couldn't do yourself. And for me, I think that my relationship with my team here is, one of the operations guys can say, hey, can you take a look at this, or what do you think of this? But I can sit down with the AutoCAD engineering guys and be like, what are we doing with this? How about this? And I can talk with my sales team about, maybe a strategy, with a different client. I can talk with Steve and my management team about, where are we, how can we make our AR AP solution better? You were part, I think, of our, when we selected Computeries as our ERP solution.
Yeah, I think it's been cool to watch you evolve over the years. Like, because I mean, obviously, I saw you when you started this, and I've watched you evolve over the years. There's something that I think it would be cool if you hold some version of the story of how you got through 2008 when the market was tanking, when the construction and business, your business is in large part, it's a result of construction happening, and it's not just the service. I mean, your large projects, it's all the data centers you're building or working on. It's contingent or dependent upon other projects moving forward. 2008, things came to a halt.
Yeah.
And I can visually remember, because I was still there with you. I can visually remember, I could see in my mind right now, I can see you calm as a cucumber. You used to walk down from upstairs, walk up and down all day. You'd go, take a breather out in the back, get some fresh air, go back upstairs. And I didn't know what you were up to. Like nobody really knew, but you were up to something and you were moving something forward, and you got the company through that.
Well,
everybody did, I should say, but you led and made certain things happen.
Well, I mean, so first, what we did is senior management team took a 10% pay cut, right? So no one else took a pay cut, so we conserved. My CFO at the time insisted that we had a cut, and I said, no, we have to sell. We were very aggressive and just didn't take no for an answer. And we were able to secure, the Project Alpha, which is a huge data center. And we were able to secure Morgan Stanley, which got us out of got us out of those days. And several months later, we were able to repatriate the 10% that we held back. But also at the time, if you recall, we went to suits, right?
Yeah.
And that was a marketing thing, because we wanted to communicate quality, and just, wearing a suit and a tie elevates you in everyone's focus, right?
Yeah. I mean, I remember you would come in. So by the way, first of all, it's funny because the CFO was me. But this is something that came in handy for me years later. And I've told Chris many times that it was one of the most valuable lessons that I ever learned. You can only cut expenses so far. I mean, there's a limit to it. What you have real control over and influence over is broadening your network, meeting new people, increasing the awareness so that you can get more business, develop more business. And when I went into Chris's office and I said to, I'm not going to say what we were talking about, but there was a certain expense that was a large expense every month. And I was like, I knew within limits I could say something without, overstepping my boundaries. And I pointed out this one large expense, and he pointed out to me, this is our biggest marketing expense. This is where I meet most of the people. And it turned out that what Chris just talked about, the two deals that he was able to secure, they did happen because he invested so much time and money into developing relationships through meals and entertainment, which I can tell you for me in business is how I've gotten most of the relationships I have come through not, formal sales. It's through meeting people and developing business. It takes time and it have to be meaningful friendships you develop. And so when I went into Chris and said, we need to cut these costs, and he looked at me and basically was like, I don't think so. He knew something I didn't know at the time. And you fast forward all these years later, we were in, last year was COVID. I mean, we're still in COVID, but when this hit, I actually thought about that, and I'm running my own multi-million-dollar company. I'm thinking to myself, okay, we have to cut expenses. I mean, it's just prudent to do. Let's make sure we aren't overspending, but we need to spend the next year 10xing our effort to increase our business, like to increase sales, increase top line. And how do you do that? More marketing, more search engine optimization, more going out and meeting with people. Oh, wait, we can't do that during COVID. So now it's more phone calls. And it was a very valuable lesson I learned when you said that to me that day. And I actually tell that to a lot of people who I know now who are in business, and especially when COVID hit. I've heard people say, we got to reduce expenses. You do, but what you need to do is invest more in technology, because right now, if you can't communicate, you got a problem.
I mean, listen, is this like CNBC when we have to have like a little full disclosure thing?
No, I can just cut this part out. So whatever you say, I might just edit it out. Go ahead.
But Mindcore has been our IT cloud solutions for 15 years.
It's been since I left your company to start my own.
Right.
But it's a long time ago. You guys were one of my first customers.
Exactly. Again, early adopter. Matt and I work closely together. But I mean, when COVID actually came around and everyone was scrambling, to get their people to work, we didn't have anything to do, right? And as a matter of fact, we had just made a big investment in going to the new platform, right?
You've always been somebody, and this is another important point. This is going to be a great conversation today. There's a lot of information to take away. You've always been somebody who essentially you're in the construction business, but you're not. I mean, you're a vendor that provides a necessary service, like by law, and it's a highly valuable, extremely important life safety service. And at the end of the day, you've always used technology to be ahead of everybody else in your industry. I mean, from the beginning, you had a Palm Pilot before anybody had Palm Pilots. I mean, and so what you just said is, pause a sec. It says internet unstable. Hold on. Can you still see me?
Yep.
Hold on a second. What you just said is, I mean, everybody needs to take that to heart. It's 10 times more, 100 times more important now than it was 20 years ago. Like whatever business you're in, your technology investment is equally as important as your marketing and sales investment. Like you can bring all the business in the world in. If you can't communicate with your customers or you can't like use your systems or you can't make a phone call, you got a problem.
Well, I mean,
You know?
and obviously, we just implemented Teams, right?
I mean,
And
it's cutting edge.
and I really, our in-house director of operations, Sean, was who was basically somewhat risk adverse. Was like, oh no, we got to slow this down, and I'm like, no, we got to speed this up. Let's go. And I jumped in and I watched a bunch of videos and did a bunch of research, and I just started working with teams and looking at the apps, the add-ins, and trying to figure it out.
Endless.
Right.
So much opportunity. I mean, there's so much opportunity. You brought up I have two more questions for you. One is, how has risk played a role? We know you took a risk taking a fork in the road, but along the way, you've been given the opportunity to take risks day after day, year after year, to grow the business, or potentially not take risks out of fear of what could happen. You're more of a risk taker, calculated risk taker that does the research. Okay. You don't, I mean, there's nothing, I mean, you'll go to all ends of the earth. I know you to get all your data, but how important is taking risk to growing a company?
Well, I think you said calculated risk, right? If you have all of if you have the process, okay, that's mitigating the risk. If you have the right systems and the right infrastructure, that's mitigating the risk. So, in our world, and part of the COVID thing is that, so we're working on a new terminal at Newark Airport. We're working on several terminals at LaGuardia. All of those construction projects continued. We have several healthcare projects that continued. So in that world, we were very fortunate, okay, to not really have any deflection, in our revenue stream. The other side, and folks need to understand that we're not only construction people, but we also provide inspection and test agreements for all of the systems that we install. So at a certain point, we do have a continued revenue stream, okay, that we kind of call keeping the lights on, and we use that to offset some of the expenses, the internal expenses, so that we can be more competitive in the construction side of things.
And also the advisory services. I mean, you're in that business, but the professional services, the advice, the guidance, the expertise. I mean, people rely on you extensively for that.
Yep.
Because it can go all different ways, but you're still a trusted advisor.
Oh, absolutely.
Everybody, like any lawyer, or doctor.
It's we get calls all the time from professional engineering firms that we work with. Hey, what do you think about this? Or
right.
I guess we kind of skipped over. I was a deputy fire official in the city of Garfield for 10 years.
My next question, and I had two questions. That my next question is really about that. We didn't connect. I know you as the guy at the firehouse, and I've seen the time that you put in outside of building the business.
Oh,
seen the time you put in.
If I really think about when I was the training guy for 7 years, the time that I spent on that, if I had actually spent it,
on the business.
But you know what? At the time, when I first got to Wayne, when I bought my house and I got into the fire department, I came from Garfield, which is a very busy city based fire department with a lot of fires. I mean, and understand that when I was a firefighter in Garfield, it was before fire inspection, right? So we used to have a lot of fires.
And they were bad and they were messy.
Oh, absolutely. And how you upset, your entire household is come home at 3 o'clock in the morning and then shower, and the entire shower smells like smoke.
Yeah.
but when we got into the code enforcement and New Jersey actually adopted the Uniform Fire Code, I can't tell you how many inspections and how many fires we actually prevented because we found something that was going to be a fire.
Yeah, and wow, does that tie back to business, right? It's running your business is also the same thing. And so that's why I wanted to bring that together. You spent many years in the fire service. I spent many years with you in that same fire department in Wayne, and the same things you apply to business are the same things you bring to the fire service because Chris is Chris. And I got to bring it full circle. I've watched you, go through from one day into the next. You're on a fire scene, you're in it, you're hands on. Even when you were, you had gotten up to be a captain, you were never hanging back. You were like in it, dirty, grit, and it's the same thing. Like you apply it to everything. And anybody who's watching this needs to take this away from this very successful guy, that these things are ways of thinking. They're just beliefs. It's just the way, and it is part of becoming successful. You can't be lazy and be successful at anything. You got to get your hands dirty.
I think that, the simple solutions, right, to complex problems. Okay. When we're on a roof of a building, okay, if you're not standing next to the edge, it's impossible to fall off. Get away from the edge of the roof.
Take a step back. Funny, hold on. I gotta tell you, I'll never forget this. We were doing salvage and overhaul together at a fire, and I was doing something with an axe, and I was working real hard. I mean, I was like, oh, dying. And I remember you were like, just take the axe and just hit it right here like this. And I did it, and it was like, that's all I had to do. Nobody ever showed me that in all these years. It's that stuff. Like, and so your knowledge, you didn't get that knowledge by accident. You put in years of hard work and dedication and time.
But I have to, in Garfield Fire, I had a bunch of really good guys, including a captain at the time, Turkey, who was a really good truck guy. And that's where I learned salvage and over. I mean, you learned it in fire school, but the perfection and exactly how to get it done was done there. But again, leadership, we talk about it, but never ask somebody to do. Listen, when we're on a drill, okay, and it's 90 degrees out or 80 degrees out, if the team, okay, is wearing bunker pants and a helmet and gloves, then the officers, okay, need to wear bunker pants, a helmet, and a glove. If we start our drill at 7 o'clock, okay, I expect everyone to be in front of the apparatus at 7 o'clock, dressed the same way I am.
Yep. Yeah. So listen, this is it. This is what we're talking about. This is, you can be in business, but today's topic was grit. It was commitment. You listen, I mean, this is what you've been talking about. Every story you're telling, it's weaved in there. If you can hear it, it's the same thing. Yep. And that's why I wanted to talk with you about, we could talk about 1,000 things, but that topic, if we're going to deliver value to anybody who's trying to do something, it doesn't have to be in business, by the way. It could be going to the gym. It could be trying to lose some weight. It could be in a marriage, whatever. Grit doesn't mean just only getting your hands dirty, literally. It means you got to get in and you got to educate yourself. You got to be in it. You got to be committed to it. And it applies to all of these things. And so you could not be like that, but don't expect the outcome to be exceptional, right? If you want an outcome to be exceptional or to reach a goal or to be what you might have envisioned, we hear you today talking about and affirming it takes a lot of work, a lot of time. You don't give up. You push through the fear. You push through other people's objections, and that's it's all part of the soup, right? I mean, is there anything else that you can add to that would be something that would be most important for somebody to take away if you want to reach some potential, whatever that potential is that you have in your mind?
I think, well, I think that from the leadership standpoint, we covered that kind of stuff. But our tagline, right, is solutions, not excuses. And that, I think, is if you want to grab a hold of something, everybody can make an excuse, but it's really about the solution
Go like
side.
this.
Yeah.
You know, the corporate salute.
Side and you know, business life, everything else, you know, keep that in mind, focus on the solution. Okay. And we talked about a little bit, worry about things that you have control over, right? Things that are outside of your scope. I mean, why would you worry about them? It doesn't do any good.
There's no
And
purpose.
diverts
Faulty
your
programming. What are you worried about? You can't do anything about it anyway. Focus on what you have some influence over, and then do something. Take some action. I think that's a great place to end it.
All right.
I might have to. There's so many things we didn't cover. There's so much to unpack with you, man. There's so much experience, but if anybody wanted to get in touch with you, is there anything you want? Do you have a LinkedIn page? Somebody could check you out?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn.
Okay, so you can look up Chris Kelly on LinkedIn. Company is Specialized Fire. By the way, if you're watching this and if you're in business, I mean, Chris, his company handles, I'm not going to speak for him, but major corporations. I mean, small, medium, and large, but they do a great job. And he mentioned he does Newark Airport, which is now called something else, Liberty, right? Liberty International.
We work for United Airlines in their leasehold there.
Yep. So if you have a need, by all means, I mean, this is the guy you want to use. They can do anything nationally. They have the ability to serve nationally.
Yeah, and keep in mind, that we didn't really touch on it, but the code changed, and now there's the requirement for what's called ERSS, but emergency radio responders connectivity. So basically, our portable radios need to work in an entire building. So that's a system that we also handle now, which is huge, a huge part of our business.
So a lot of people need that. So that's what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that down below. There's going to be a description when this gets put out on YouTube. I'm going to put all that down below, put some links to your website. So we'll make sure everybody can reach you. There might be some people watching that need your service. And in addition to that, there might be people that have questions that have seen how much knowledge you have. So they'll be able to reach you, through that information.
Yep.
I have a wealth of knowledge. Chris, thanks for coming on today. Say it again.
Some of it useless.
Listen, if we get one good piece, it's all worth it. One good piece of information. But thanks, man. Thanks for coming on today. And hope you had a good time. Hope you had fun.
Well, hanging out with you is always good.